Hey, what is going on, everyone? Today we're going to be doing a video on the Evil Strange or Doctor Strange Heartless's Unyielding tag that's going to be coming for the event on Monday. Now, the reason why we're doing this in advance, and I really should have done this a little bit earlier than today, but, you know, things have been really busy on the channel, so I apologize for that. I kind of want to just share some of the characters that I'll be using, some of the characters I personally recommend, and if you don't have some of those, what other kind of alternative options there are for you, because mainly this is for the heroic mode difficulty that's going to be upcoming on Monday, which is going to be a little bit more challenging. So that's kind of why I wanted to go over it in advance. So we're going to do that here today. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road. And just before we get to everything, I want to talk about the event itself for those of you who may be unfamiliar. Now, hopefully things haven't changed too much, but this is the blog from the previous Friday. Now, this is talking about the Forbidden Knowledge event campaign. This is the Strange Heartless event here, where they talk about it. Apologies if you're hearing the music skip. That's because I had to pause the video slightly because my dog came up. But now let's carry on. So this is going to be a lot tougher, I think, than previous hard modes, which largely you've been able to do at gear tier 12 kind of level. Now this is going to be a little bit different because of the recommendations for this is really from kind of that point onward. So the mission 2, which is really the first real level, level 70 gear tier 12, this is kind of the level where you need to be at for hard mode, which is going to be there. Hard mode is now going to be the new difficulty 2, so it's going to be like, I think it's going to just be medium or whatever they're calling it, whatever they're relabeling it. Hard mode is going to be difficulty 2, and then heroic is going to be difficulty 3. That's going to have some first time rewards, or what it seems like going to be first time rewards of teal gear. So this is the recommendations all the way down. Now all the way to the end though, and especially when you get to mission 7, 8, 9, it is gear tier 14, but 15 here. Frankly, you could probably still get by with like level 80-ish gear tier 14. I highly doubt you need characters at gear tier 15 and all of that. You know, 7 stars is recommending, but we'll have to see how hard it really is come Monday at store reset time, because I'm going to be doing that before I do my math video, because I need to really understand the rewards and all of that before we get onto that. So it does say that you will still get the first time rewards for hard mode. So my expectations, I guess, of this is that you're going to get all of the same stuff as you normally would for a normal campaign, but I think there's going to be some new first time rewards. Now, I'm hoping that they don't make any changes to the orb fragment drops. Now, they don't make it less for people only doing hard mode or whatever. I hope this is all just bonus teal gear, essentially, for clearing these on heroic difficulty. Now, though it will impact actually the way that you core and farm the fragments, because if you're getting the same in both hard and heroic as far as fragments go, you'll actually get a little bit more, because oftentimes when you finish hard mode and you have to go down to medium from the old campaigns, you know, you did get a little bit less from the medium campaign difficulty. So you might actually be net positive, but we'll kind of see when we get to the math part on Monday. So just wanted to let people aware of what the gear tier requirements are before we actually get to some of the characters. So we're going to take a look at here in my roster, but I also have a spreadsheet that kind of breaks it down a little bit easier. Now you can see from the top of my roster is going to probably or maybe be different than what the top of your roster is going to be, depending on sort of what characters you've been leveling, whether you're an early or mid-game player or a veteran account, you know, and frankly, if you're a veteran account, you probably don't need much of my suggestions anyways, unless for whatever reason you haven't built some of these characters. There are some questionable characters that I personally wouldn't recommend. So even though I have some geared up, you know, in the 100k range, there's a lot that I wouldn't use for this event. And I've tried to break them down by sort of character role, the same way I did for Pocket Dimensions, because where possible, you probably want to do your best at trying to find a set of characters that are going to be more well-rounded, characters that you're probably going to take into the future. So if you are going to gear them to the 14, gear 15 level, you know, you're not going to want to touch this stuff that I have at the bottom. They're really not going to be all that useful for you. And for that reason, I have it broken down in a spreadsheet. And you'll want to focus on those characters that will, you know, take you further in the game, that you'll feel good about the investment if that's what you're planning on doing for the heroic difficulty. So for that reason, I want to just jump ahead to the spreadsheet where I think I've broken it down a little bit easier here. So let's maximize that here. And so I kind of broke this down in a very similar way to Pocket Dimensions. So it's essentially the same table. I just repurposed it with different characters, and we're going to start off from the bottom. And so these are the absolute worthless tier characters. Don't even consider these at all. So that's going to be, and we can zoom in a little bit more probably here, Kree Royal Guard, Kree Reaper, Ronan the Accuser, Yellow Jacket, Jessica Jones, Juggernaut, Magneto, Winter Soldier, Colossus, and Magic. Now, believe it or not, Magic is on this list. I'm not a big fan of Magic personally. I never really invested too much into her. Free to play, we only got about 3 stars, so I just really don't think that taking her in any of the Uncanny X-Men, which would be Colossus and Phoenix, we'll talk about her, is not really worth it at this time. Winter Soldier, you do need to gear partially for the Omega Red event, but I would not use him for this event personally. What I'm curious about, though, is just pivoting really quick back to this. It does say that, like, join Doctor Strange Heartless and Scarlet Witch. So I'm wondering if they're going to be like NPCs in the mission or not, because sometimes in the campaign events you actually get some of the characters in terms of being able to use them in battle. So if that's the case, some of these other ones you might be able to do a little bit more flexibility. But let's talk about the top tier. And so these are, in my opinion, the best characters that you can use because they're going to be the most forward-thinking in terms of your future roster. And so if you have any of these, you probably should be using them. And so that includes Death, and it's in no particular order. I just happen to write them down this way. This happens to be Deathpool, and I put the roles in which I think that they basically perform. And you know, a lot of this is actually damage-type characters. So we have Deathpool, who is a damage character. You know, great choice here, good for raids. Evil Strange, I highlighted him here because it's his event. So if you spent on him, you probably have access to him. If you're a free-to-play player, you probably don't. So if you did unlock him via offers, I would probably use him and gear him because it's probably going to be worth it. Hell, there might be a second Evil Strange for you to use as an NPC, so there might be some weird synergy by having 2 of them together. So he's a DPS-type character, of course. Scarlet Witch, also for that Darkhold team. She's like one of the few utility options, actually, on this list. So if the levels are a bit more challenging, then there's a chance that you might actually need Scarlet Witch. But whether or not at this stage of the game that you actually have Scarlet Witch at gear tier 14 or not, then that's going to be really up to your roster. I do, and we'll see if I need to use her, I will. But I think she's still worth gearing. I know there's been a lot of videos out there about questioning Scarlet Witch's utility overall in the Darkhold team and beyond. But I think whether or not you're using her on Darkhold and Arena is irrelevant. I think you're still going to be using her as a character, and I think that she's going to be a strong character to use. You could also use her as a 5th member for Dark Hunters if you have that team at all. So I think she's definitely worth raising still. Obviously, Scarlet Spider and Spider-Punk, I didn't actually put notes down. They're obviously web warriors, so I mean, you're going to want to build them for raids, so that's a no-brainer there, and for the Scourge events as well if you need to. So Scarlet Spider and Spider-Punk, you're going to want to use them together. A lot of the tag characters have kind of like duos. That's what I'm kind of seeing here. Lady Deathstrike, DPS, she's a great character. She's a really strong tech character. Hopefully she becomes farmable soon, but she's someone that you're going to want to raise with gear tier anyway. So these are some of my top picks in my opinion, so some collection of this. I'll talk about some of the other characters that I believe really should be used if you need to, if you don't have this covered. Baron Zemo, now he is a damage character, but he's a good character. But he is a glass cannon, so hit points wise, he's not as new as some of the other characters, so he definitely is squishier than some of the other options, so keep that in mind as well. Kate Bishop and Echo, they're both new as part of the Young Avengers team, and unfortunately Squirrel Girl is not on this list. Otherwise I would definitely recommend using them, or at least recommend using Squirrel Girl. There is actually no healers really on this list, other than Scarlet Witch's ability to heal herself and redistribute health. There is no flat healers. Lady Deathstrike has some passive healing on herself, and Deathpool has some ways to get some health back, but other than that, there are no healers on this list, so that's a little bit of an issue. So Ghost is a bit of a utility choice here. You might already have her up at gear tier 14 or 15 for carrying the Jubilees event, because she can solo Jubilees legendary event, so if you have that, then you can definitely add her in if you need to there. America Chavez, kind of same reason for the Young Avengers. I probably wouldn't do this unless you already have them up. I wouldn't bother. Wolverine and Silver Samurai, both part of that Weapon X team. But, you know, like, I personally don't justify gearing Silver Samurai, because he's usually the last character to gear that I've seen, and I don't even have him past gear 12, so I would just kind of go with Lady Deathstrike standalone if you need to. Gamora and Nebula, now they are the Infinity Watch duo. Now, as you can see on my roster, I have them actually pretty high up, 200k and 160k, so I may use them if it's necessary to do that. I might use Gamora and Nebula with, you know, Deathpool, Scarlet Witch, and somebody else, I don't know, Lady Deathstrike possibly as well. So it really depends on the node, how challenging it ends up being for me. Punisher, he's probably the last on this list, basically. He's okay. He's good damage, but his stats, his health is kind of bad at this point in the game. He is the best member of the Skilletary, and you kind of want him to have a high stars anyways because of the Skilletary Flash event. Other than that, I don't expect him to make a big difference unless you're running a bunch of city heroes, because he does improve damage against villains. But other than that, he's probably, you want characters who are going to survive, and those are going to be some of the newer characters or reworks, which is why it's kind of like in this top tier category here. And I want to give a quick nod to Phoenix, because she's kind of a DPS, but if you use her, you're not going to get a 3-star, because her main purpose is to die, to turn into Dark Phoenix, and then if that happens, you're not getting the 3-star medal. So if you're just looking to clear the node and get the first time rewards, then you probably could run Phoenix, and that'll probably be okay. Just keep in mind that you're not going to be able to farm the node for whatever might be on there. I don't know if there's going to be farmable teal gear or not, or if it's just first time. So none of that I know until Monday at store reset. I'm going to be doing a additional video here to do the math, which I would normally do for these campaign events, and hopefully we can learn a little bit more. So hopefully you have at least some of these characters here on this list, and then you can compensate with maybe one or two of the other characters from this list. I don't really recommend Punisher or Phoenix, but they're not quite worthless tier in my opinion. So let me know what you guys are going to be doing for your Unyielding team. I think I'm going to start with Scarlet Witch, Deathpool, and Gamora, Nebula, and Lady Deathstrike. I think that's what I'm probably going to use. I may use the Web Warriors, however, they aren't as good outside of raids in terms of damage, and without Ghost Spider, it's not as good. Scarlet Spider and Spider-Punk, they're really just damage, and I kind of want to maximize my utility and control, I think, because that's normally what's important for challenging levels. So, yeah, that's everything, everyone, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your weekend. I hope that you're getting ready for Strange Heartless Evil Strange's event on Monday, which is going to be a brand new heroic tier, and should be exciting, maybe, or maybe really challenging and really tough. We'll find out, though, and of course, until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.